TSSA test number 6. Test number 6 is to verify the inspection inputs. Now in inspection there are 5 inputs that we're going to be verifying. One is auto, one is INS or inspection, which is car top inspection. The next is ACC, which is access, MRI, which is machine room inspection, and ICI, which is in-car inspection. Now, for the redundancy, what we do is we have to have at least one input on. We can't have 2, and we can't have 0. There's got to be one and only one of those 5 inputs on at a time. So in order to verify this, we are going to remove the ICA jumper. Now that's in-car automatic. And what that's going to do is, with all the other switches in automatic operation, we're going to remove that wire, which means that none of the inputs are going to be on. With none of the inputs on, we have 3 systems that are monitoring it. One is the safety PAL, one is the safety processor, and one is the main processor. And we'll go through to show that each one of those processors will shut down the car and recognize that this is a fault. Okay, so we're going to reach up here, ICA, and we're going to carefully remove this wire. Now remember, it's got 110 volts on it, so care needs to be taken that it doesn't touch anything and that you are protected. The safety in all of these tests is the responsibility of the elevator mechanic who is certified. So we're going to remove that wire very carefully. We're going to leave it out here. Now with that wire removed, we're going to take a look at the safety PAL first. The safety PAL, if you'll notice this red light right here, indicates a fault. So the safety PAL recognizes that as a fault. If we move over a little bit to the left, we have another red light on, which is the safety processor. The safety processor also recognizes that that is a fault. Now if we move up to the main LCD screen, by hitting mode a couple of times and hitting enter, we'll go into elevator status. You'll notice we're on inspection mode. Now when we remove that ICA, we don't have any inspection inputs on. But with no inspection inputs on, the controller automatically goes to inspection mode, and it's showing an invalid inspection input, so the car will not try to run from the main processor, and the safety processor and the safety PAL will also inhibit the car from moving. Once we have verified that all components have seen the fault, we can try to run the car. The car will not run. So in order to put the car back into operation, we need to replace the ICA wire. Now we need to be very careful when we do this, because the wires are usually stranded wires, and there can be little strands. And so we need to make sure that all the strands of wire go into the terminal. Now these are CSA approved terminals, and all the wires, it's made to do this, but you need to be careful, because if you can short something out if you're not careful. So we're going to carefully put that wire back in there. Put that wire in there, we're going to tighten it back up. Now after we put it back in, we're going to want to look closely around the terminal to make sure that all the wires went into the terminal and that there are no wires hanging out that didn't get put back in. The way to ensure that that happens is to make sure that you back the terminal all the way out. If you only loosen the terminal and then pull it out, it's a smaller opening and it tends to push wires back out. So if you unscrew that all the way before you put it in and then tighten it up, you'll be ensured that all the wires get in properly. We have already verified the automatic input, or the ICA. We are now going to verify, if we have 2 inputs on at a time, that the car will also shut down. Now this needs to be done with the car on full automatic so that the ICA is hot. And if you can notice, I've put one end of my jumper already into ICA, so that the jumper that I have is hot. Again, you need to be very careful doing this. There's 110 volts on the wire. Be careful not to touch what you should not. So basically, if I jump the INS, which is the third terminal down here, you'll notice that the LED next to the INS right in here turned on, which is saying that the INS input is on. So now I have in-car automatic on and inspection on at the same time. Now that's a fault, since we can only have one and only one of the inputs on. So if you notice, if we come back down here to the safety PAL fault, the safety PAL recognizes it to be a fault. Come across to the safety processor. Right here is the safety processor fault. It recognizes that it is a fault. And again, if you come back up to the LCD screen, inspection mode, invalid inspection input. Now, once with that jumped, you can try to run the car, and it will not run. And once you've verified that the car will not run, in order to put it back into automatic operation, we need to remove our jumper from INS. You'll notice when we remove our jumper from INS, the INS light goes out. You can hear the relays go back through the redundancy test. If we come back down, the safety PAL fault light went out. The safety processor fault light went out. And we go back to waiting assignment on the screen. Again, the reset's going to stay there for 60 seconds, and then it will return to automatic operation. That verifies the car top inspection input. Next, we are now going to verify the access input, which is the ACC. Now ACC, since it is a hoistway switch, is going to be on the left-hand side of the controller. And it is this terminal block just to the left of the CPU. It's the third terminal down. And so we are going to jump ACC hot. Now we could do that by jumping anything that's on 110. Because HSS is right next to it, we've chose to use that terminal to make the jump. So I'm going to jump HSS to ACC. Now again, you'll notice the ACC light comes on. We'll go back down through the same process that we've been doing, and that is verifying that the safety PAL fault is recognized, the safety processor fault is recognized, and that the main CPU inspection input fault is recognized. Once we have seen that they're all recognized and that the car will not run, in order to put the car back into service, we have to carefully remove our jumper from ACC. And if you'll notice on the screen, it goes back to reset mode. It'll go through its relay redundancy test, and we go back to waiting assignment. Reset will disappear in 60 seconds, and automatic service will come back on the screen. That verifies the access input. We're going to verify that if ICI comes on while full automatic, so the car has to be on full automatic service, we are going to jump ICA, which is in-car automatic. It's hot right now because we're on automatic. And then we're going to jump one terminal below it, which is ICI, which is in-car inspection. With that in-car inspection jumped, we're going to go through the same process. Safety PAL recognizes the fault. Safety processor recognizes the fault. And the main CPU recognizes the fault, showing the inspection input fault. Again, once we have verified that the car will not run, we will put it back into service by removing our jumper from ICI. Once we remove the jumper, you'll notice on the screen, again, we go through the redundancy test, and then we'll go back to waiting assignment. In 60 seconds, the reset fault will go off, and we will go back into automatic service.